What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Anthony Bruno Show. I am Anthony Bruno. The NBA announced its return to play plan the first week of June. The league is planning on returning to action starting July 31st at Disney World in Orlando. 22 teams are coming back to compete for the title, including the defending NBA champion Toronto Raptors. So today, I'm going to discuss how the return to play plan affects the Raptors as they attempt to defend their championship. So let's go. Alright, so here's all the important information you need to know. Under the plan, the teams with the NBA's 22 best records will return to compete for the championship on July 31st. There's going to be 9 teams from the Eastern Conference and 13 teams from the Western Conference. Upon returning, all 22 teams are going to play 8 regular season games for seeding purposes before the start of a traditional 16-team playoff, which will include 4 rounds of best-of-7 series, culminating in the NBA Finals in early October. And all the games are going to take place at Disney World in Orlando without fans, so obviously it's going to be a very interesting dynamic for everyone involved. So what does this all mean for the Toronto Raptors? Well, the Raps played their last game back on March 9th when they beat the Utah Jazz on the road for their 46th win of the season, and then the NBA season was suspended because of you know what, and at the time the Raptors were in second place in the Eastern Conference at 46-18, the third best record in the NBA. The Raptors were on pace to win 58 games this season despite losing their best player in free agency, Kawhi Leonard. And on top of that, they dealt with a ridiculous amount of injuries, okay? Listen to this. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Serge Ibaka, and Marc Gasol missed a combined 101 games. And despite all of that, the Raptors were able to keep winning and stay consistent under these just terrible circumstances. And that's why I believe Nick Nurse is a stone lock to win Coach of the Year. Besides OG Anunoby, who was able to stay healthy all season long, the 2 players who stepped up most in the midst of all these injuries were both undrafted. Terrence Davis, who's a freaking rookie, and then Canadian Chris Boucher. They were playing so well this year. They stepped up both offensively and defensively and proved to head coach Nick Nurse that he could rely on them in any situation. So it did not matter one bit who was in the rotation all season long. The Raptors just continued to win basketball games. As I mentioned earlier, when the Raptors return, they're going to come back as the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference with a comfortable 3-game lead over the third-place Boston Celtics. And Boston, I don't think, is going to be able to catch Toronto, especially with only 8 games left to play in the regular season. And the Raptors are also too far behind the first-place Bucks, so they should be locked into that number 2 seed in the East. And this also means that it's very likely they're going to play either the Brooklyn Nets or the Orlando Magic in the opening round of the playoffs. And they should be able to breeze through the opening round, especially considering Kevin Durant is not coming back for the Brooklyn Nets, because that could have given the Raptors a ton of problems if all of a sudden they had to face KD in the first round. But in typical Raptors fashion, a tradition unlike any other, they're probably still going to lose their first game of the playoffs. And I believe only 3 teams have a legit shot to win the East: the Bucks, Raptors, and Celtics. I like the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, but I don't think they have enough high-end talent to get out of the East and win a championship. And the 76ers are good too, I know, but their 2 best players, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, cannot shoot from the perimeter in a shooter's league, so that crosses them off the list for me. End of story. Going back to the Raptors now, there was not a single team in the NBA this season that dealt with more injuries than them. So I think that this long layoff, which is going to last about 5 months, is going to help the Raptors more than any other team. And another thing, there's not going to be any home court advantage in the playoffs because all of these teams playing at Disney World are playing in new arenas that they've never played in before without fans. And I actually think that this could probably work in the Raptors' favor because as well as they play at home in front of the amazing Scotiabank Arena crowd, they also play very well away from Toronto. They had the 3rd best road record in the NBA this season at 23-9. The Raptors are so well coached. They have amazing leadership, and now they have championship pedigree. So I don't think the uniqueness of the situation at Disney World is going to rattle them one bit. And then looking at the other contenders in the East, starting with the Boston Celtics, that team is legit. I love their wing players and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker running the point, Brad Stevens, who's a great head coach. And let's not forget that the Celtics came very close to getting to the NBA Finals a couple of years ago if it wasn't for LeBron James. So that's a very good team. Jason Tatum this year has emerged as one of the best players in the East. Honestly, if I had to pick one guy in the entire conference right now to take a shot and make a bucket for me late in the fourth quarter, man, Jason Tatum is very, very high on my list. So I think that is a team that everyone needs to take seriously. And then, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I think is going to win back-to-back MVPs. They have the best record in basketball. That team is a juggernaut, both offensively and defensively. They were just flat out having a historically great season. The Bucks were beating teams on average by 11.3 points per game. That is the 5th best average point differential in NBA history. So the Bucks, they were going to be a problem for the Raptors, and I think it's still going to come down to Bucks and Raptors in the Eastern Conference Final. And when you look at the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's still not a guy that you're terrified of late in the fourth quarter. He still hasn't really proven that he could be a late game closer, especially when it comes down to, the conference finals and even the NBA finals. Obviously, he's never gotten there yet. So I think that the Raptors still have a very good chance to beat the Bucks, and I do think that the Eastern Conference Finals is probably going to go 6 or 7 games. But as good as the Raptors and Bucks are, there's another team in the Western Conference who before the season I picked to win the NBA championship, and I think the long layoff is going to work wonders for them as well. That team is the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi Leonard was doing his usual load management this season, so he missed a bunch of games, and Paul George was dealing with several injuries. So once that team gets healthy, they are going to be a major problem. And I think that the Clippers, when they are fully healthy, are the best team in basketball. And of course, we can't forget about LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron was playing so well this year, battling with Giannis for the MVP. I think he's going to come up just a little bit short. Like I mentioned, I think Giannis is going to win back-to-back MVPs. But man, come playoff time, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, that is going to be such a sick duo. That team is great defensively. They're obviously great offensively. And I think it's going to come down to a Lakers-Clippers Western Conference Final. And as good as the Bucks and the Raptors are, I don't really think they're good enough to beat the Lakers or the Clippers in a 7-game playoff series. Just give me Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James every single time. Personally, right now, I think that Kawhi Leonard is the best player in basketball, and I think that once him and Paul George are back to full strength, those guys are going to be humming along. You got Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench. That team is so deep. They're great offensively. They're great defensively. They can shoot. They can do it all, and I think that they are eventually going to win the NBA championship. And man, oh man, I cannot wait for basketball to return in July. It is going to be awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think of the Raptors' chances of making another run at the championship and which team you think is going to win the title. I can't wait for the NBA season to return along with all the other professional sports leagues because we have gone way too long without sports. And as always, I would really appreciate it if you like the video, share it on social media, and subscribe to my channel, especially if you're a sports fan and want to see more content like this. It would really, really help me out. So that does it for this video, and I will see you guys next time.